This video is sponsored by Audible. So I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls and fighters lately, games that are extremely punishing. And when I'm kind of on a losing streak or can't seem to find a rhythm, I have a thought that I'd be willing to bet you've had before. I could be doing something else right now. I have a backlog I could be knocking down, less stressful things I could be enjoying. And it's because of this I have found a lot of peace in the service that Audible provides. To me, these are sort of zone-out games. I play best when I can relax and let my muscle memory take over. Listening to audiobooks when I'm playing gives my mind something to chew on as I let automaticity take the wheel, and gives me the feeling that I am actually knocking down something off my backlog, because I am. And if you go to audible.com/DarylTG or text DarylTG to 500 for a limited time, you'll save 60% on your first 3 months of Audible. Audible gives you an audiobook credit each month, and as you can imagine, it has something for everyone. Whether you're like my wife and enjoy fantasy titles like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, or just want to relive God of War hands-free, Audible has you covered. Personally, I'd recommend Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, which I've also referenced in a previous vid. So be sure to take advantage of this great deal and gift someone, even yourself, with an Audible membership this holiday season. Audible.com/DarylTG or text DarylTG to 500 and you'll save 60% on your first 3 months. With that said, get ready for my weirdest video of the year. There are a handful of statements about the universe that I find to be consistently true. Going to bed knowing that you don't have to be up early makes for legendary sleep. We will all do this little thing with tape at least once in our lives. We've all SD'd and smashed when it mattered most. Sometimes games save too fast and it's necessary to save twice just in case. No one has ever been happy to see one of these. If you've ever been handed a controller at your friend's house and wondered if they've scratched their balls when using it, the answer is yes. Try not to think about it. And if you see someone slip and fall down, you will fight back the urge to laugh. There is a certain pleasure in seeing something go wrong. This BBC guy walking around like a lost child as the broadcast begins. Robert Downey Jr. fumbling with this SUV hatch in Avengers bloopers. This horse packing up its hind legs to go home after a long day of work. Mistakes are a natural part of life. We all trip over hurdles, whether it be in an interview, a date, or even an actual hurdle. When it comes to stories, however, books, movies, anime, TV, mistakes are edited out and sold as a bonus feature with the Blu-ray. The product you, the consumer, receives is meticulously edited, reviewed, and polished before it ever actually meets your pupils to ensure that it is a seamlessly immersive experience. Even if there are oopsie-boopsies, in most cases they are largely unnoticeable and won't break your suspension of disbelief. And despite what we may remember about growing up playing video games, it at least feels like mishaps in them are fewer and far between, with constant patches coming through and the industry as a whole growing. But yeah, they're still around. And they come in a wide variety to fit your liking: invisible vehicles, confused NPCs, speedrun strats, being inside stuff, falling out of stuff, sleep paralysis demons, Dwayne The Rock Are You Winning Son, frozen horses, sliding horses, bouncy horses, flying horses. There are a lot of wonky horses. You see, stories told in other forms of media can control every little thing on the screen or on the page. Don't like something? Edit it out, refilm it, rewrite it, redraw it, digitally remove it, digitally add it, digitally shave it. But stories told through this particular medium are the exception. Regardless of how many hours of playtesting, months of delays, or years of patches a game may have, there is simply no way to ensure that the literal millions of possible situations, inputs, and scenarios a large game engine can produce will be completely bug-free. Even 20 years after games drop, speedrunners are still finding exploits. New games, regardless of delays or the size of the studio working on them, will have to deal with glitches at least to some degree, and because of this, we all get it, you know? In fact, some bugs are kind of endearing. You accept that nonsense will ensue in GTA, you know what you're signing up for if you play a select few Sonic games, and damn it, I hope Cyberpunk never changes. In fact, some games are purposely left full of bugs and goofy physics because a lot of us are simply tickled pink at this. The problem with glitches really rears its head when we're talking about immersion. Let's just say you're really into the story of the game, the narrative is hidden, the dialogue is gripping, you're on the edge of your seat, frankly just smitten. And then...
Look at Diamond City, a place I've been trying to warn of real danger. But every issue I publish, all I hear is, "Oh, Piper, why don't you ever publish anything happy? Piper, why can't you write something nice for a change?"
Right, so you might have pissed yourself laughing like I did when I first saw that, but every bit of immersion, every bit of your currently suspended disbelief just got back into school. Now it's painfully obvious that this enchanting journey is in fact an imperfect disc, currently spinning away in your dusty old PlayStation a few feet from your sleep-deprived face. Not that you didn't already know that, but now you're getting an abrupt reminder. The magic of the story is tarnished, even if you're still entertained. But there is a level of tolerance to glitches, right? The first glitch is like the first time your partner touches you with their cold feet under the covers, and it's all cute and funny, and you already have so much invested in that game/person that you think it's quirky. But by, about the 20th or 30th time it happens, you'll be as fed up as a triskaidekaphobic waiter serving a table of 13. You see, I'd argue there is a healthy dose of mistakes that we as people can digest when it comes to being engrossed in a story. For most forms of media, I'd contend that that number is very low, since almost all errors can be fixed in post, and it's expected that a book or a movie is extremely polished. Gaming, however, is one particular medium that I think does have a slightly higher threshold because all mistakes can't be realistically remedied, and let's be honest, a lot of times they're kind of welcome. So what I'm intending to do today with my wildly clickbaity title is talk about why glitches are funny and how, under the right circumstances, breaking the suspension of disbelief actually provides for a uniquely refreshing experience. We'll discuss the psychology of humor and immersion, and to continue a Christmas tradition on this channel as well as at least partially make good on the clickbait, talk about the one other storytelling medium that simply can't be 100% bug-free. Let's talk about why this is funny, how this can make for a unique experience, and yes, what a real-life glitch looks like. The date is March 7th, 2021. Pro wrestling is still without live audiences due to some obscure virus you've probably never heard of. It's the main event of AEW Revolution on pay-per-view, and Jon Moxley is wrestling Kenny Omega in an exploding barbed wire death match, which, except for the death, is exactly what it sounds like. These two men are beating the hell out of each other, not just with barbed wire bats and chairs, but with exploding barbed wire bats and chairs. It's absurd, it's gut-wrenching, and it's damn good entertainment. And even if we all know that wrestling is scripted and more of a violent form of theater than a sport, it still takes you on a ride and still tells you a story. This story being of two men who simply hate one another more than they hate the sensation of pain. This match was intended to pay homage to the controversial yet iconic Japanese-style death match where glass, barbed wire, and yes, explosives were used to take pro wrestling rivalries to the nth degree. Wrestlers like Terry Funk, Hayabusa, and the great Atsushi Onita made spots like this something that even a non-wrestling fan simply can't forget seeing. And so Moxley and Omega dueled back and forth, putting on what really was a spectacular performance, given the fact that they only had a couple hundred fans to feed off of thanks to the pandemic. Now, sometimes these death matches ended with a countdown, where if the match had not yet ended, the entire ring would explode, leaving wrestlers covered in debris, the ring engulfed in billowing smoke, and fans in total shock as their hero lay bloody and helpless amongst the wreckage. And this was the fate of Jon Moxley, who after losing was tied up in the ring. And in an uncharacteristically selfless act, Moxley's former friend Eddie Kingston comes to his aid, tries to help him escape, and as time runs out, desperately shields Moxley to protect him from the imminent blast. This could be a huge mistake, but he can't watch his friend go out like this. Time expires, the crowd watches helplessly, and then... This, my friends, is what we wrestling nerds call a botch. Botches have happened since the dawn of pro wrestling, yes, even before the original Sin Cara. Christian Cage slamming his head on the ring apron before Scott Steiner was ready. Batista realizing he was supposed to fall down and then just flopping. Booker T accidentally dropping the N-bomb on national television and then breaking character in embarrassment. This blood that was supposed to fall on Kevin Nash falling 2 feet to the left of Kevin Nash. Nia Jax yelling, after landing awkwardly. Alberto Del Rio trying to enziguri this bucket into Big Show's head but slipping, then trying again while Big Show waits for him to hit it. Botches are an absolute gift so long as they don't end in injury, and much like glitches, there is an understanding that they do happen. There is no editing live TV, no escape from internet immortality if you bust your ass running to the ring. In the same way, there is no shame if you can't help but giggle when someone gets tripped up in the ropes, just as there is no shame in liking a buggy game. And again, like glitches, the first 1 or 2 botches are cute, right? It happens. I sure as hell couldn't springboard off the middle rope. But when the game starts breaking or the match looks like this, you just bury your face like Jake Gyllenhaal after Taylor Swift drops a new version of All Too Well. As far as I can tell, wrestling botches are the closest we are going to get to real life glitches. Except for maybe like theater gafs, but... Anyways, botches are real life glitches because in what other place is a few fireworks going off going to cause everyone involved to act like a nuke bomb has dropped? Edward Moore, the person, was completely fine, but Eddie Kingston, the character, has to commit to what has happened on screen and remain unconscious. He can't break kayfabe. The commentators must react like these two need to be rushed to the hospital, despite the crowd reacting like the explosion was $20 worth of roadside sparklers, just like Arthur Morgan has to have a normalized conversation as the cutscene is intending, despite the NPCs having a shootout in the background. Sure, mistakes happen on live TV all the time, but a news reporter doesn't have to stay in character because they aren't in a fictional world.
Fuck it.
There is no story. They're a human being in the real world that made a mistake and can acknowledge it freely, which is not the case when you're trying to sell a narrative that is relying on perfect execution. This scene is about justice and the concept of being above the law despite two characters being inside of NPCs. Just like this match's conclusion is supposed to be a heroic gesture from a former friend who's been in a dark place trying to redeem himself, despite an explosion that would cause Vinny Santorini from Atlantis to lose his boner quicker than an arachnophobic gay man fighting Quelaag in Dark Souls. The story was relying on this explosion to be devastating, but it was comical. When glitches and botches get in the way of a story being told, there is an incongruence between the intended message and the eyesore that is currently breaking your suspension of disbelief in that message. And that incongruence is why in a lot of cases, you can't help but crack up. During the commercials of the Super Bowl last February, there was an ad that ran only 5 seconds. Here it is. Now, if you didn't know, most ads run around 30 to 60 seconds, have a small plot or script, and are, a little more commercially than this. But that 5 seconds was among the most effective advertisements of the broadcast, according to the Kellogg School Super Bowl Advertising Review. The reason being, it wasn't very commercially. It didn't match our typical preconception of what an ad looks like. It worked because of something called schema incongruity theory, or as I like to call it, SIT, as in sit and let me explain. A schema is sort of a shortcut our mind uses to put things in context. They're little clusters of basic knowledge about a concept or an entity that guide your perception, interpretation, imagination, or problem solving about that thing. We have a schema for taking a shower, a schema for making coffee, a schema for calling a friend. If I tell you you're about to take a driver's test, you might think about putting the keys in the ignition, fastening your seatbelt, adjusting your mirrors, but you certainly wouldn't think jam mashed potatoes into the air conditioning vents. That would be absurd and maybe a little silly. Why? Because a side dish is incongruent with your schema of driving. Why would you assault your car like that? Why would you even have mashed potatoes?
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Just like a boring 5-second JPEG doesn't match your schema of a big budget Super Bowl commercial, a giant running at you with an explosive doesn't match your schema of a casual chat about journalism. You see, our minds like to make sense of things, and when they experience something that doesn't match what they're expecting based on a current schema, it catches them off guard, causing you to have to resolve that mismatch, which in the case of this Reddit ad resulted in curiosity, causing it to be pretty damn effective. And that's schema incongruity theory in a nutshell. In advertising, it has the potential to increase interest, memorability, and persuasiveness in consumers, and in glitches or botches, it has the potential to be found as humorous.
defense too.
According to Dr. William Fry, psychiatrist and laughter researcher at Stanford University, yep, that is a real profession, humor usually requires two big ingredients. One, of course, is incongruity. A mismatch between, like the schema of walking down the street and this poor person falling over in a dramatic fashion. It's not expected, but it's also not complicated. That 5-second Reddit ad worked because it left you wondering what the ad actually said and why it was so short. It wasn't funny, Dr. Fry would likely argue, because it left too many questions. There's nothing complicated here, a dude tripped over. Incongruity isn't enough. If you don't get the joke, it's because you don't understand why there is a dilemma. It's why when I made the joke about the triskaidekaphobic waiter serving a table of 13, it might have fallen flat for you because for it to be funny, you need to know what triskaidekaphobia is. It might have left you with an awkward Google search instead of a chuckle. Now, if I made the joke, what's really loud and kills you if it hits you in the nose? A train. Then you might go... Because not only is that comprehensible, not only is it incongruent with how specific I was being, it was extreme. And according to a pair of studies from 2013 and 16, surprise, unexpectedness, and incompatibility are experienced as funny, and the bigger the discrepancy, the funnier the joke, which is why this is funny, but this might be really funny. And look, humor is subjective, I get that. This is why I'm not a laughter researcher. As always, remember, psychology can't be tested in a vacuum. We're talking tendencies here, not laws. But it might give a glimpse into why subreddits like r/unexpected are so popular, or why LOL random humor was so rampant back in the day. I guess screaming stuff like IR potatoes randomly back in middle school got such a consistent laugh because it didn't exactly fit any schema. And I think that's one reason why glitch compilations or clips online will never die. Glitches, much like botches, don't fit the schema of what is supposed to be happening. It's unexpected, it's goofy, and oftentimes it's extreme. One of my favorite series on YouTube is Botchamania, a compilation channel that archives and pokes fun at all of the most recent botches.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom!
I've been watching for years, it never gets old despite how many times the channel is taken down for copyright, and it's so popular in the wrestling community that even wrestlers and commentators subtly reference it from time to time.
You talk too much. I might have just made Botchamania on that one.
And it sees these levels of popularity for the same reasons we enjoy the occasional good glitch. Now, if someone is wrestling and they, land awkwardly and are clearly concussed or bleeding out, that might be less funny. And this is due to the second ingredient of humor that Dr. Fry proposes, a play frame. Have you ever seen someone busted, laughed, and then sort of felt bad for doing so when you realized they were actually hurt? All at once, the hilarity of it is washed away with genuine concern. This is what happens with botches in wrestling that end in disaster. Someone clearly with a traumatic head injury, a torn ACL, a crushed nose. In all of these cases, humor left the building because the danger of the situation greatly outweighs any haha from the unexpected. For it to be funny, things have to be seen in a play frame, which Dr. Fry says puts a real-life event in a non-serious context and allows for an atypical psychological reaction. Play state is why this is hilarious, but this is hard to watch. The beauty of games is that they stay in that play frame. No one died from this explosion. NPCs in GTA aren't real people. Things can be endlessly absurd in the virtual world, and there is no risk of being legitimately concerned for anyone's safety. But not all botches are created equal. I've seen some scary ones in my day, and I truly hope I don't see many more. This is still great though, play state is intact here. Anyways, this video has been kind of all over the place. Let me wrap this up by talking about something I think is undeniably cool. Botches and glitches can be funny, they can be scary, they can break your immersion and unsuspend your disbelief, but they can also steer into the skid and paradoxically use all of those things, all of those natural human reactions to make a story even more captivating. When you're watching a wrestling match, you can kind of tell when someone is real life hurt or they have what we would call a shoot injury. Either they're bleeding way more than they should, the other wrestler breaks character in concern, or they're injured in such a way that they clearly aren't pretending. One such occasion was a match between Chris Hamrick and a young CM Punk. Hamrick goes for a top rope backflip, slips, catches his ankle on the top rope, and suffers a gruesome knee injury. He's clearly in genuine pain. Punk and some refs help out the poor man, and then fans in attendance were completely swerved, just like the fans during this match when Alexa Bliss horrifically breaks her arm and uses her opponent's concern as an opening to get in a cheap shot. Amazing how we forget that folks can be double jointed. Botches can be used to draw legitimate sympathy that can then be betrayed to make the villain in the match seem even more like a piece of shit. In the same way, a game can use a glitch to cause genuine real-world concern, like in Arkham Asylum, where you might think your game has crashed, only to realize it's all a ruse to illustrate the effects of Scarecrow's drugs. Doki Doki employs glitches to actually draw you even deeper into the story by making you question where the boundaries of this game lie. I've talked about fourth wall breaks before, so I won't dwell here too long, but they work in a lot of cases because they can cause real-life distress. In-game stakes sort of leak into reality. It breaks that play state. Suddenly this person could legitimately be hurt. My game could legitimately be broken. When you realize it's all a hoax, everyone is safe, and this was all part of the act, the play state is reestablished, and you feel entertained in a remarkably refreshing way. It's one of the reasons wrestling is so damn interesting to me. AJ Styles once genuinely botched a springboard into the ring, then to make it feel more natural, he purposely botched it again and even decided against using it over the course of the event to make it seem like his character had the yips. Then finally, he nails the move on the last day for a big crowd reaction, effectively turning a shoot error into a kayfabe storyline, which is not uncommon in wrestling. Sometimes an explosion doesn't work and you have to roll with it or play it off like it was a big prank.
For your childhood friend, John, to come to your rescue.
Kenny Omega may be a tough son of a bitch,
To cover you up and dry hump you in the middle of the ring.
but he can't make an exploding ring worth of shit.
While 4 sparklers shot from the corner posts.
In this match, word on the street was that Michael Hickenbottom the person was shoot frustrated backstage with Terry Bollea the person. So when Shawn Michaels the character wrestled with Hulk Hogan the character on this evening, Michaels went out of his way to oversell or wildly over-dramatize all of Hogan's moves, technically doing his job, but also making Hogan look ridiculous in the process. It was hilarious to watch, but when you see moments like this where real-life drama bleeds into the talent's lives, you get a different story entirely. Who were we watching in this match? The on-screen characters or the men behind them? When a game glitches, are we seeing an unintentional mistake or a subtle premeditated scheme to make us let our guard down? Well, this has been a fun video, and I want to thank you for tuning in to what may be the strangest, most unrelated pair of topics I have ever covered. In summary, glitches are funny, botches are usually funny, and both draw our attention / get a chuckle out of us because of how damn incongruent they are with what the story is trying to tell us. Does that break your immersion? Yes, maybe, but it can also be used to cleverly draw you back in even deeper. Humor is subjective. Maybe you've never once thought someone slipping down and falling was funny, but even so, I hope you had a delightful time watching this video. I've been Daryl, you've been a lovely audience for the past 4 years, and I can't wait to see you again in 2022. Thank you so much for watching, and have yourself a damn good one. Oh shit, we forgot to do Patreon. All right, hey, huge thank you to all of my wonderful Patreon supporters, especially this month's featured patrons who are, I'm gonna mess this name up. Mikhail Preservers, I think that's like Polish maybe? Mikhail Preservers, thank you. David Schumer, Blitzblade, thank you Blitzblade. Geister, thank you Geister. Kwok, ARSA15, perhaps. Difficult names for me on this particular list for some reason. The wonderful Doc Sophie, as always, pleasure to have you here. Abdude, and that's all of them. I don't know why I said like there was more, but that's all 8 for this month. Guys, this has been an incredible year. 2021, I think, as far as the world goes, was much better. 2020 obviously was terrible for all of the reasons that it was terrible, but it's a pleasure to be able to look back and realize that I have been doing this channel now for 4 years, and that 4 years included a pandemic. Usually whenever I do this last video of the year, I get like emotional. I'm like, I can't believe I got this many subs. It's kind of routine now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I would like to sit here and be like, I can't believe we've done this, guys, but it's another year, man. I don't know, I've kind of settled into a rhythm, but I'm excited to get back to work for next year. I have a lot of cool stuff planned, including that potential cycle play on anime, and we may even do 2, I don't know. Anything can happen. I'm kind of running out of topics, to be honest with you, but I'll come up with more. Anyways, take care, guys. From my family to yours, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy none of that. If you don't celebrate any of it, I hope you just have a lovely December. Whatever it is, guys, just please enjoy some time with your family, enjoy some time with your friends. Hope you have some time off. Make sure you rest, make sure you sleep in, make sure that you drink something warm, make sure you drink something cold. I don't know, live your life. Just enjoy yourself. We'll be back next year for year 5 of this crap. And yeah. Until then, see you in January. Catch your boy over on Twitch, maybe on Twitter. Links, maybe. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm gonna go. Bye, guys.